Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My dear audience, peace be with all of you. My lecture today is about when the child teaches the adults. And the child here is a young person who is approximately around 10 or 11 years old. His name is Ismail or Ismail, and he is the son of the very famous prophet and messenger of Allah, Abraham. And the situation here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing Ibrahim. Very tough test. As we know that Ibrahim alayhi salam did not get a son until he was almost 80 years old. And then after that he got Ismail alayhi salam. Try to imagine how much love would a person would have for his son getting it after 60 or 70 or 80 years. It would be at least extraordinary love. It would never be like any love of a father who loves his children. Of course it's like that, but because that he was deprived of getting a child for a long time, and now he got one, and after this child grew, when he became almost 10 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Ibrahim a very tough test. Ibrahim alayhi salam saw in his dream, and as we Muslims know, the dreams of the messengers of Allah are nothing but the truth. They see the truth. Unlike other human beings, when they see the dreams, it's not necessary that their dream is the truth. We have to differentiate between the dreams of the messengers of Allah and the dreams of average human beings. Now, the dream of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he saw in his dream that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him with this tough command. He commanded him to slaughter his most beloved son, Ismail alayhi salam. You can imagine how much suffering Ibrahim had, but because the command was from Almighty Allah, was from his Lord, was from his Creator, the most beloved being to him, he could not say anything. He could not even argue with Allah. He could not say to Allah, as many people nowadays say, "Oh God, why me? Why do you test me by this test?" A Muslim like Ibrahim alayhi salam, a high caliber messenger of Allah like Ibrahim alayhi salam, he knows that it is the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us to do anything to us. He created us. We are His servants and His slaves. We are His creature. He is the one who brought us into existence, and He has the right to do anything to us. So a Muslim knows that this is the right of Allah upon us, would never ask Allah, why me? And this is a lesson for all of us when we are tested by any test in this life. We should not object to the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, Ibrahim alayhi salam accepted the test, and he wanted to fulfill the test and to slaughter his most beloved son. Now the situation is like that. He went to his son, who was almost 10 or 11 years old, and he explained the situation to him. And you can imagine if this situation takes place nowadays with any person. I'm glad that it doesn't happen simply because we're not messengers of Allah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not test us with tough tests as the tests that were given to the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The situation was very, very tough and was very critical for both of them. Then the child taught us this lesson by saying this beautiful verse to his father. Ya abati. He started to tell his father, "Oh, my beloved father." Even his father was about to slaughter him, he still says to his father, "My beloved father." He knew that he loved his father very much, and he knew that this was a test from Allah, and therefore he said, "Do what you had been commanded to do." And again, here is another lesson for all of us. He is telling his father not to do what you want to do, but do what you had been commanded by Allah to do. In other words, he's telling his father, what I'm doing now, because I'm accepting this situation, I'm accepting you slaughtering me, because Allah commanded you, because I worship Allah, and when I know that the command comes from Him, I have nothing to do except saying I listen and I obey. The obedience here is not to the human being. The obedience here is to the Lord of human beings, is the creator of human beings. This is a beautiful lesson that we learn from this child. Then a very important psychological lesson here. He said that do what you want, what Allah commanded you to do. However, he was afraid that when the action comes, the actual slaughtering happens, he may fear the situation and he may run away. And therefore, he said, I seek support in Allah to make me patient while you are slaughtering me. He knows the golden rule that's very common nowadays. It's easier said than done. We can say a lot of things, but when we come to actions, we find ourselves are changing. A lot of people would say, we are willing to pay such amount of money as charity. But when they want to really actually to start writing the check, you find all of them decreasing the number that they thought that they are going to pay. It's easier said than done. This young child understood this. He understood the weakness of human beings, that he may change his mind when he sees the knife approaching his throat. So he said, I seek support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying, Satajiduni insha'Allah min as-sabirin. Brothers and sisters, it is the beauty of the ubudiyyah. It is the beauty and the sweetness of obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once a person obeys Allah at times of hardships, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. Allah was testing the belief and the degree of iman of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim passed the test. He brought his son, he put him down, he brought the knife, and he was about to slaughter him. And the child himself passed the test. He accepted that he is going to be slaughtered. And then the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is represented when he sent a big lamb to sacrifice the soul of Ismail after the two of them passed the test. Ya Ibrahim, قد صدقت الرؤيا. You fulfilled the dream. You fulfilled the promise. You passed the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. And here, as you can see, we can learn from children as we can learn from adults, especially the obedient children who obey their parents. And when they obey their parents, they know that by obeying their parents, they obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as the commands from their parents fit into the Quran and the Sunnah, fit into the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and does not exceed or go beyond what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.